Months. Smoked fish can last up to 2 months. Contestant 8, Greg, spends a lot of energy collecting dry wood daily due to his shelter being near the water. He would have moved to a more wood-abundant area if not for the convenience of fishing. Today, while checking his net, he found a fish caught by its tail. Attempting to retrieve it, Greg slipped into the water, wetting his clothes. With winter approaching, he needs to warm up quickly and has decided to move to a better location for wood gathering. Realizing that fire is his salvation in the wilderness, he collects charcoal and moves to a new shelter where wood is plentiful. Contestant 9, Dan, calculates his calorie consumption daily, maintaining a routine of sleeping and fishing, which gives him too much idle time to miss his family. Without other plans, he struggles with the emotional conflict of activity versus energy conservation, finding it torturous as inactivity makes him homesick, but physical activity drains his strength. Finally, after several days, his rescue team arrived. With tears in his eyes, he could no longer contain his longing for his family. He was ready to leave this dreadful place and go home, as he felt unsatisfied in the wilderness. Contestant 9. Dan's journey has come to an end. Contestant 10, Carlene, tried fishing all day with a rod she made herself. She caught her first fish just as night was approaching, which brought her to tears. She wants to win the competition and be the first female winner on the show, aiming to be a role model for others. On day 51, contestant 8, Greg, fell into the water the previous day. Even after moving to a new shelter with plenty of firewood, his body temperature did not recover, and he spent a sleepless night in wet clothes, experiencing nausea, dizziness, and even hallucinations. Greg developed hypothermia, and despite spending the entire night by the fire, his wet clothes did not dry. Afraid that removing his clothes would cause his body temperature to drop faster, he reluctantly called for rescue. Regretting not taking off his wet clothes earlier, he was disappointed in himself, but knew life was the most precious thing. Sadly, Greg withdrew from the competition. Now, there are 5 contestants left. Contestant 3, Kaylee, discovered a Chilean recluse spider near the camp, suspecting it was the source of his painful bite. This venomous spider not only leaves deep scars that are hard to heal, but Kaylee is dismayed as his physical condition gradually worsens, despite applying herbal remedies nightly. The infection persists. Contestant 4, Fowler, completed his shelter made primarily of bamboo, a material originally used in Chinese architecture. Today, he also constructed a bamboo bird trap in the shape of a pyramid, with bait tied at the top. Upon a bird touching the bait, the pyramid would collapse, trapping it. After returning to his shelter, Fowler made a 9-tooth rake to clear away dead leaves and prevent poisonous insects from reaching his bird trap. When he returned, the trap had been triggered, capturing a bird. After quickly killing the bird and plucking its feathers, Fowler prepared to make soup. Though the meat was scant, the broth was delicious and memorable. Contestant 7, Megan, 41, notices a fox wandering outside her shelter at night. As a forestry biologist, she is aware that food sources are dwindling due to the winter. Previously, she would never consider eating a carnivorous animal, but now, driven by hunger, she not only wants to eat the fox, but also skin it. Megan sets several traps, but the fox merely circles her shelter at night without approaching the traps. This worries Megan about potential bites, as foxes are common carriers of rabies, and those infected can be highly aggressive. On day 59, 5 contestants remain. Contestant 3, Kali, shows incredible resilience as her venomous spider bite from day 45 begins to heal after a fortnight of suffering. Despite the severe pain and the threat of 3 puncture wounds on her leg, she never considered quitting. Her improving condition further motivates her. Contestant 10, Carlene, spots a deer outside her shelter in the morning, but fails to seize the opportunity. The heavy snow raises questions of beauty versus desolation. By day 72, 5 contestants are still in the running. Contestant 4, Fowler, wakes to find snow outside his shelter and builds a snowman to mark the first snowfall. As the snow clears by afternoon, he prepares for winter by gathering more wood. Despite surviving over 2 months in the wild, he remains determined to win the prize money to improve his family's life. Contestant 5, Dave, also experiences the snow and shouts joyously, finding delight in the wintry scene. However, after 72 days, having lost 40 pounds, Dave craves fatty meats. His physical strength has waned to the point where he can no longer draw his traditional bow, which requires 60 pounds of force. Regretting not planning his diet better when he could still catch fish, Dave feels despondent. Unable to work and with winter making food scarce, his situation is dire. Contestant 7, Megan, finds fishing challenging due to the fish migrating to deeper waters with the onset of winter. Her fishing gear is less effective now. Since catching fish became difficult, she shifted her focus to catching birds. She crafted a bird trap using a small reed frame with berries as bait. As a biologist, her expertise is a significant advantage, proven by her consistent gathering of berries and wild vegetables since the start. Contestant 3, Kali, is overjoyed by today's heavy snow, feeling as if she's in a fairy tale and likening herself to a snow sprite. Known as the Lady of Luck, she is the only one who still catches fish by the shore in winter. At night, unable to contain her joy, Kaylee sings aloud. Each remaining contestant is striving for their dreams. After enduring an injury, Kaylee feels as if she has unblocked her energy channels. By morning, she announces her decision to withdraw from the competition. For Kaylee, this journey was initially about winning to buy land and build a house for herself. However, after recovering from her injury, she realized she was too focused on material goals, neglecting other aspects of life. She wants to break free from seeing herself merely as a money-making machine and live a life true to herself. This wilderness journey has been transformative, opening new doors for her future. On day 73 with Kaylee's exit, only 4 contestants remain. Contestant 4, Fowler, plans to go down to his former shelter by the foothill to fish before the water freezes, hoping to stock up on food. Today, Megan goes to the shore where her air trap, surprisingly, catches a fish. After handling a redfish, another fish bites almost immediately. It seems luck is on her side as she catches her 3rd fish of the day by the afternoon, marking a significant change since she hadn't caught any fish for a whole month. Today the production crew will conduct a medical checkup. Megan, who has lost 20 pounds since arriving on the island, which is about 18 kilograms over 2.5 months, doesn't seem too troubled by it. As a biologist, she has had a steady supply of berries and wild vegetables. Despite her weight loss, Megan is happy and feels well enough to continue competing. To celebrate passing the medical checkup, she makes herself a hammock and enjoys gathering edible fungi and berries before sunset. Contestant 5, Dave, appears gaunt, with just skin and bones, and is in a low spirit. Weak and unable to engage in strenuous activity, he attempted fishing by the water today but had no luck due to the winter. After slipping and falling while preparing to return to his shelter, he realizes his physical condition is deteriorating. The smoked fish he had stored for emergencies now needs to be consumed more due to his condition. The afternoon's medical checkup alarmed the crew as Dave had lost 42 pounds, about 38 kilograms over the months, nearly 1/3 of his original weight. His blood pressure is below normal, and when informed that he needed to be evacuated for health reasons, Dave was devastated. Despite his careful planning and ample food supply, including 32 pieces of smoked fish, the crew explained that he was at risk of organ failure and could not be gassed if an incident occurred. His condition required more than just smoked fish, needing substantial carbohydrates and vitamins for recovery. Dave became the only contestant eliminated despite having plenty of food because he rationed too much, fearing difficulty in fishing during winter. Disheartened, he regretted hoarding food, unsure of how to explain to his family the reason behind his elimination. However, his determination and planning are commendable traits. Contestant number 10, Carlene, plans to make a wooden drum today. She found animal hide on the 2nd day of the competition, and with nothing else pressing today and to distract herself from missing her family, she finished constructing her first musical instrument in the wilderness by evening. Today marks day 76, with only 3 contestants remaining. Contestant number 4, Fowler, has not caught any fish in recent days as the water levels have risen since his last successful fishing. Hunger forces him to dig for roots near his shelter, a relentless challenge both mentally and physically. Despite the hardship, Fowler is determined to win the competition for his wife and children to improve their lives. By day 78, 3 contestants are left. The production crew's boat heads towards the Patagonian competition area, indicating another contestant has opted out. The camera shifts to contestant number 7, Megan, who feels she has pushed herself to her limits. Realizing she can no longer continue, she desires to return to her family. Although not winning the $500,000 prize, She believes her family will be proud of her efforts and is not disheartened by her decision to leave. Megan's journey ends on day 78. By day 86, only 2 remain. Fowler, nearly 3 months away from home, feels his body weakening daily. Despite setting fishing traps and using his boat, catching fish in the deep waters of winter relies purely on luck. As the competition nears its end, medical checks become more frequent. Fowler has lost 64 kilograms, but still weighs around 150 kilograms, showing the extreme preparations contestants make to endure the wilderness. Contestant number 10. Carlene, now as thin as lightning, fantasizes about high-fat foods every night, finding herself half-satiated just by swallowing her saliva. Today, the production team conducted a medical checkup, focused primarily on vital organs to assess the contestants' health and determine if they can continue in the competition. Carlene now weighs 46 kilograms, having lost 20.5 kilograms since arriving in Patagonia. This weight loss has brought her to a critical point. As a woman, her baseline weight was already much lower than her male counterparts. After discussions, the team decided to remove Carlene from the competition, as her body mass index, BMI, is now below average. Continuing could likely lead to permanent damage to her digestive and nervous systems. She is aware of her body's fragility, but this outcome is not what she desired. She has endured much for the chance to win the prize money to buy land for her family and secure a carefree future for her children. All these dreams are now gone. By day 87, only 1 contestant remains. Contestant number 4, Fowler. His hardships are unknown to us, but losing 64 kilograms in 3 months is not something many can achieve. As the production team arrives again, Fowler begins to worry that his stats may be below average, and that they might take him away. Now resembling a frail old man, he repeatedly insists that he can keep going and that he is physically fine. In a vulnerable moment, as the camera rolls, his wife appears behind him and informs Fowler that he has won. He is the last contestant standing. This episode brings us back to a familiar place, Vancouver Island, one of the densest black bear regions. Here, the humidity remains at 100% throughout the year. Now in pairs, participants face the wilderness challenge. On the first day, 7 teams are left. Dave, from the first team, has just landed and starts to find his way. His wife, Brooke, accompanies him. Their tasks are well defined. Brooke builds the shelter on site while Dave searches for resources. Contestants can only use compasses to determine direction. The American participants land about 16 kilometers apart. Dave and his wife, Brooke, married for 18 years with 2 children, believe they have a significant advantage in this competition. This stems from their 8 years of marital understanding and a life far from modern civilization. For them, competing with someone who holds different ideals would be an unbearable challenge. Only with the right partner can they cooperate closely and give their all. From Brooke's perspective, she landed on a wide coast, often abundant with resources. Not far from her landing spot, she discovered a stream with fresh water and some chanterelles nearby, securing food and water upon arrival. After collecting some pine branches for kindling in the woods, she decided to explore the coast for resources. However, upon reaching the coast, Brooke encountered a wolf. This pack animal was likely the scout of its group. Both were initially confused, but the wolf, accustomed to dominating Vancouver Island, was not particularly afraid of humans. It continued to approach Brooke until she made a noise, and it prudently backed away. On Vancouver Island's wilderness, the animals teach you that you are no longer at the top of the food chain. Here, not only wolves, but also about 7,000 black bears and nearly 1,000 cougars could threaten your life. As a female contestant, Brooke didn't dare to be too conspicuous while waiting for her husband. She returned to the woods to start building the shelter, knowing she was alone and couldn't rush the job. A secure campsite was her top priority. It must be said, Brooke's hands-on skills are impressive. By the afternoon, she had completed a sturdy shelter. Brad landed in a forest, a challenging location. The dense jungle would significantly slow him down, taking a lot of time to navigate and being home to many wild animals. Brad's brother joined him in the competition. They have an exceptional bond and often set up camps outdoors together, honing their skills. Brad, at 23, is in his prime, strong physically. If they can manage the psychological pressure, they could be strong contenders. His brother landed on a beach, confident in his ability to build a sturdy shelter and wait for Brad. However, after exploring for 3 hours, he couldn't find a suitable spot. The lack of flat ground in the primitive forest was frightening, and he got lost. In his panic, he fell and twisted his ankle between two tree roots. Desperate and disoriented, he eventually reached the beach and hastily called for help. Scared, he chose to quit the competition after just 3 hours. In this season's pairs format, one participant's withdrawal forces their partner to leave as well. Brad, who had just erected a temporary shelter due to rain, was startled by the sound of a helicopter. The production team found him using his satellite location. Learning of his brother's exit due to injury, he was silent at first, but relieved that it was not a more serious issue. The brothers were the youngest team and had to leave the competition early. The third team member, Alex, embarked on a long trek after landing to find his son. His landing spot was a swampy area, heavy with moisture and danger. He soon found fresh bear droppings, prompting him to leave the area quickly. Competing with his 19-year-old son, Alex believed his son's clear thinking was crucial for survival. As a retired veteran, Alex felt confident in taking care of their survival, while his son would contribute many useful ideas for living in the wild. The camera switches to his son, Logan, who is 19 years old. He landed in a dense jungle, struggling to build a shelter due to the steep slopes and unsuitable terrain. As it began to rain, he had no choice but to set up a tarp to protect his clothes and equipment. The fourth team member, Jesse, landed and discovered a large amount of turkey tail mushrooms, known for their medicinal properties that can boost immunity. Planning to collect them for brewing tea later, Jesse, who served 10 years in the military and has a strong sense of direction, took on the role of finding his partner, his brother. To reunite with his brother sooner, Jesse crossed through bushes to a path created by black bears, which made him nervous as black bears are more likely to attack when startled or feeling their territory is invaded. On the second day, 6 teams remained. Ted, from the 5th team, reached a beach at low tide on his second day and pried up a hat clam, a common type of shellfish found at low tide that provides some calories. His brother Jim was responsible for finding him. As the younger brother, Ted needed to build a sturdy shelter. Both brothers work at a map publishing company and are professional adventurers, often surveying uninhabited areas. This has honed their strong survival skills, resilience, and endurance. For them, this competition is more like a long business trip or an adventure game, showcasing their survival skills. Ted, who is 1.9 meters tall, requires more food than average, and his brother Jim, at 2 meters tall, needs even more. Both are robust and need a lot of food just to maintain bodily functions. Ted's first step is to find as much food as possible during this low tide and set up the fishing nets he brought. The camera then shifts to Jim, whose 2-meter stature makes navigating the jungle challenging. Just then, as the rain started, and Alex, a member of the 3rd team, had to stop due to the swampy landing area, he worried about his son Logan. He was just thinking of him when he heard a helicopter overhead. The show's crew informed him that there had been an incident with Logan and he needed to go to him. Alex hoped it wasn't a wild animal attack. Fortunately, upon landing, he saw Logan safe and sound, bringing a smile to Alex's face. Despite Logan explaining how he had to quit the competition, Alex seemed not to hear it. It was simply too much for Logan to handle the unknown fears of the wilderness. Alex kept his eyes on his son, relieved that he was unharmed. He reassured him that giving up didn't mean losing, especially before one's mind is fully mature. Even though their withdrawal forced Alex out of the race too, he was still proud of his son for having the courage to step into the competition. After all, at 19, Logan will grow into a strong man. Regrettably, the father-son duo had to leave the competition on the 3rd day, leaving 5 teams remaining. Brooke from the 1st team focused on keeping a fire going today. Given that it rains for over half the year on Vancouver Island, with constant humidity, fire is essential for survival, for cooking, drying clothes, and more. Brooke dug a pit at the campsite's opening, lined it with mud, sand, and stones, and surrounded it with sticks covered with branches to shield from rain. It's worth noting that the main entrance of the shelter is on the left, not at this opening. Returning to the shelter, it took less than 10 minutes for the fire to start, showing the benefits of dry kindling collected over the previous days. Buddy, from Team 6, navigated through dense bushes, stepping over wild grass and vines, where soil wasn't even visible. Growing up in the countryside with his brother, the two had plenty of outdoor experience. often taking their family camping and hunting. Buddy emerged from the bushes, frustrated to find his compass pointing towards a nearby mountain. Could his brother Chris still be on the other side? To reach him, Buddy would have to cross a dense mountain forest, a nearly lethal task. To help Buddy spot him, Chris had hung